So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some custom tactics and player instructions for one of the best direct formations in FIFA 23, this being the 4-2-2. But just before we get started guys, as always, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop this a thumbs up. It's team of the season, so if you guys need any coins, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a nice 5% discount. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, I like to have this on balance. This is because it gives you the best control over your defenders, so when you need to press, you're able to press, and then when you want to drop off, be a little bit more passive, you're also able to do that. The other settings do not quite give you as much control, which is why I don't suggest them, but feel free to use them if that is what you like. Moving on to the width guys, I like to have this on 40. This is so we can primarily defend in a nice narrow and compact shape. Basically we're going to be able to stop those attacks through the middle because our defense is going to be nice and compact, so our opponent's not just going to be able to run right through us. Super important to have a nice narrow defense, but you don't want to make it too narrow and have too low of a width, otherwise you're not going to be able to cover the wider areas in case an opponent tries a wide attack. So it is important to at least maintain some width. Moving on to the depth guys, I like to have this on 60. This is because I find it to be a really nice balanced defensive line where it's not too low to the point where we're always getting pinned back in our own box, and on the flip side it's not too high to the point where one through ball will always destroy us. Having a 60 depth seems to work really well for me, but again it's something you might want to change based on how you play. Moving on to build up play guys, I like to have this on balance. This is because it's the most consistent and balanced form of build up, as you'd probably guess. Basically you can play slow when you want to play slow, and then you can play a little bit faster when you want to as well. Basically you can be a lot more varied with your build up with balance than something like fast build up, which is obviously very restricted to always playing quickly. But yeah, that's why I suggest balanced. Moving on to chance creation guys, I suggest using direct passing. This is because it's by far the most meta option in the game. Basically your attacking players will bunch up against the opposition defenders, so you can do the very overpowered 1v1 isolation plays. Players also make those extra movements in the box so you can get off that extra pass to guarantee the goals. Direct passing is an absolute must in my opinion, as it is super necessary. Moving on to width guys, I just leave this bang on 50. The reason for this is I don't want my width to be too low to the point where everyone feels like they're way too close together, because that's not too effective. And on the flip side, I don't want the width to be like really high, otherwise it feels more like a wide formation. So honestly I've just kind of left it on 50, so it's kind of balanced. It's not too wide and it's not too narrow. Moving on to players in box guys, I have this on 5. This is so I can get some players into the box to create those chances, but we don't overcommit to the entire team to the point where we're always getting counter-attacked. As for corners and free kicks, I have these both on 1 because there is a set piece routine that I use which requires these to be on 1. Link to that in the top right hand corner of the screen. Moving on to the players you want to use guys, in the 2 striker positions, what I like to do is go for a balance between the 2 strikers. So I like to go for a more creative player on the left hand side. This is somebody that's still obviously going to be able to finish a chance on occasion, but their job's to be a little bit more creative to get a bit more out of the attack. Basically what I feel like is if you use 2 out and out strikers, I feel like you're very limited and very one dimensional in attack, because these players are restricted. They can only really do like through balls and get on the end of crosses and stuff like that, so it does really limit you. So going for like a more creative player in one of the positions really does help in my opinion, but again it's completely up to you. Moving on to the right cam and the left cam, I suggest you guys use the best wingers possible. These are obviously players with very good dribbling, really good pace, maybe like the 5-star skill moves, players that can cross and pass very well, and even players that can finish off the chances, because there are a lot of times where these cams will get into the goal scoring opportunities, which is very important, and yeah, you need them to have decent shooting to finish off those chances. Moving on to the 2 CDMs, I like to go for a bit of a balance between these two. So in the left CDM spot, I go for a more defensive minded player. This is somebody that is going to stay back, break up the play and ensure we are as good defensively as possible. So I would suggest somebody with a medium high work rate if you can get it, so you get the maximum contribution in defense and then not too bothered about going forward. As for the right CDM, I go for a bit more of a box to box style player. This is to balance out the midfield. So this box to box player is going to attack and defend, do a bit of everything. So I would suggest somebody with a high work rate if you can get it, as you get the maximum contribution in both attack and defense, but just ensure that this player has a nice well-rounded card. Moving on to the fullbacks, guys, you can pretty much use whoever you want, but I kind of like to go for a balance where in the left back position I've got somebody that's a little bit more technical, and then in the right back position I've got somebody that's maybe not as good on the ball but is very defensively solid. As for the two centre backs and the goalkeeper, these just need to be the full meta players. There's not too much to say about them. The centre backs just need to be like those fast players, the strong players, medium high work rates. Honestly, you guys know the types of players you want to be using right now. Finally, moving on to the player instructions, guys. On the left striker, the more creative player, I have him on stay central and mixed attack. I have him on stay central because it's important that he does maintain those central areas. We don't want him drifting out into the wide positions because we've already got the cams to like cover those spaces, so we do want him to be in the central areas, so he's always where the striker should be. And because he's a more creative striker, we also have him on mixed attack as opposed to getting behind, as I feel like you get a lot more out of the player this way. When you put them on getting behind, they always make the same one-dimensional runs and they're very restricted, but when you put them on mixed attack, they get more involved in things like the build-up and they just make more dynamic movements, in my opinion. Moving on to the right striker, we have him on stay central and getting behind. We have him on stay central for the same reasons as the left striker, but we do actually have this player on getting behind, so they're always looking to get into the best positions to finish off those chances. Because this is a more clinical finisher, I don't mind having him on getting behind as opposed to mixed attack, but if you want to put them both on mixed attack, that is also fine. Moving on to the right cam and the left cam, I have them on comeback on defense and get into the box for cross. We have them on comeback on defense, so it does make this team defend in a 4-4-2 when we don't have the ball. I find this to be very important because the 4-4-2 is definitely one of the best defensive formations in the game, so by putting these players on comeback on defense, they will come back to defend as a left mid and right mid, so we're a 4-2-2 in attack and a 4-4-2 in defense. Super effective, which makes us really good in attack and defense. We also have them on get into the box for cross, so they're not hesitant to get into the penalty area, because if you have them on balanced crossing runs, they can be a little bit hesitant and not do too much, so I do like to have them on get into the box so they do the most possible. Moving on to the left CDM, the more defensive player, we have him on stay back, cover center and cut passing lanes. We have him on stay back because obviously he's a defensive player. We have him on cut passing lanes, so he's always looking to break up the passes, and yeah, be as good as possible. Cut passing lanes makes these players really annoying because they're always there to like intercept the passes and regain possession for you. We also have them on cover center, so they do defend those central areas as opposed to the wider areas. Moving on to the right CDM, the more box-to-box player, we have him on the default settings and cover center. We have him on the default settings because he is a box-to-box, he has a bit of a free roll, so we don't really want to restrict him all that much. The only important thing is that we have him on cover center, so he does defend those central areas as opposed to the wider areas. As for the left back and the right back, I have them on stay back while attacking and overlap. We have them on stay back, so we're as defensively sound as we possibly can be. You know, we're not just going to get through ball down the line because these players will be there to cover the positions. So yeah, we have them on stay back, and we also have them on overlap, so when we do send them on a run forward, they'll make the overlapping runs to add extra width. What you can do, which is what I quite often do, is have one of them on balanced attack and overlap, so we still have at least 3 defenders back, but this player will always go forward to add a bit of extra width and give us a wider option. But for now, I just have them both on stay back overlap. As for the centre backs and the keeper, these are on the default settings and I do not touch them, guys. But yeah, these are my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2. If you have enjoyed or found it useful, please be sure to drop this a like, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.